Welcome to our Devos this week, where we are talking about evaluating if we're growing. If you are a believer, if you're someone that considers yourself a Christian, my question to you is, are you getting closer to Jesus? Are you growing closer in your connection to Him? I want to tell you a story, and I'm not proud of this story. Okay, so it starts off painting me in a bad light, but then it kind of lends itself better in the end. I was at Starbucks. This was right at the end of last year. And I was getting a cup of coffee, and there was a long line, and I had stopped after went to a hospital visit, and I stopped after, and I really was tired, and I wanted a cup of coffee, and I was waiting in this line. Well, I'm not like one of those. One of my biggest pet peeves, because I know you want to know what my biggest pet peeves are, is like if I'm in line somewhere, and like the person behind me is like up really close to me. I don't know why that makes me absolutely bonkers, crazy, angry. Like, it makes me want to run away. Like, I just don't like you can tell because they accidentally bump you, and like, you could feel like when they sneeze, like you feel it, you're like, oh, come on, get away. So like this line was pretty long, and everybody was pretty distant. We're living in a COVID world, and some people had masks on, some people didn't. That didn't bother me as much as this. There was a lady that came in, and she came up alongside me. Now, I was giving a pretty generous berth of space between me and the fella in front of me, because I'm like, I don't want to be one of those creepy people. So this lady comes up, and she's standing there. She's an older lady, and she's standing there. She's looking at the line. She's looking at me, and I'm standing, and she comes right up to me. I'm talking like close. Like, she was like right against my back almost. And I didn't acknowledge it. And she's like, you have to move up. Now, there's 4 people in front of us. Regardless of whether I'm on top of the guy in front of me or not, I'm not getting anywhere closer. Like, it doesn't matter. It's like people in traffic that are, speeding in places where there's, red lights, and there's a red light coming up, and you start to slow down, and they speed to get around you, but they're waiting at the same red light. That also is a pet peeve of mine. You can see a pattern here, okay? So this lady is like, are you going to move up? And I was like, I don't think I need. She's like, well, are you gonna get something here or not? Like, this lady is furious. Like, she wants to fight with me, okay? I could see it in her face. And I was looking at her, and I'm like, it was like close to Christmas time, and I'm like, am I gonna fight an old woman at Starbucks at Christmas? Like, is that gonna be like what I talk about on Christmas Eve at the Log Church? Like, I punched this woman at Starbucks, she punched me first. Like, is this what's gonna happen? So, needless to say, I didn't know what to do. So what I did was I slightly moved up. She sighed because I wasn't like a backpack to the person in front of me, okay? Long story, just a little bit longer. They opened up a second cashier. There was like another person on the other side that asked, if they could take the order. This lady was standing behind me. I was next. And I felt the Holy Spirit. This is one of those things. This is where the part, that actually is somewhat redeemable. I was so angry about this lady the whole time. I'm texting Jamie. I'm like, this lady wants to fight me. Like, I'm angry. And like, I was going to say, where do you want me to go, lady? I was going to explain to her how lines work, because apparently she doesn't know how lines work. And all I could think of was how rotten that was, like how rotten that attitude was. And so when this line opened up, I'm like, look, like this line's opening up here, and you were giving me a hard time, and I'm going to go right there, and I'll be at this line. And I stopped myself, and I turned to the woman, and I said, did you want to go ahead of me? And she was like, why? And I'm like, so I could kick you. No, I didn't say that. But I was like, I don't know. I think you seem like you're pressed for time. And this wasn't even being sarcastic. I just thought that she would. And she went up to the line ahead of me, and she seemed really grateful to order her drink, okay? So then I waited one more person, and I got my drink. Now, I say all that. It was a long story to say this. I really, really wanted to tell this lady off. Like, I really did, because it was rude the way she was, and I don't like the line thing, okay? I was sinful in that moment, because I know that I tend to be quick on my feet when it comes to what I say in those kinds of situations, and it's not helpful, and it's not profitable. But I also, at that moment, was excited because God was giving me an opportunity. And that opportunity is something that passes us by very, very often, and most of us don't take advantage of it. And that is, do I overlook offenses? Did you know that a great way to test to see if you're growing is, do you overlook the offenses around you? Or do you have to confront every single thing that happens to your life or bad to you? If somebody is 5 minutes late to meet with you, do you have to tell them how rude it was? If somebody doesn't say thank you to something, do you have to correct them? Like, are you constantly correcting? If you see somebody post something online, do you have to jump in and add 6 sentences of why this is dumb that they posted that? Like, how good are you at overlooking offenses? It says in the Old Testament that it's a grace to overlook an offense. But being able to overlook an offense is such a great marker to see how you're growing, because again, you're focusing instead of on what other people are doing wrong. You're focusing on your own self. Like, I was convicted at Starbucks. I'm like, you are a jerk. You're a preacher. Like, you're a preacher to a church up the street, and you're angry at this woman for bad behavior. You don't know this woman. So, like, this was going on in my mind. Now, I'm not saying this like this wasn't like happening in the moment. This happened like while I'm waiting in the line after I already had the bad thoughts. So I'm telling you, my thoughts they weren't good. And I'm like, how cool is it going to be when I go and tell the office staff that I made an old lady cry at Starbucks? Like, what is going on? Like, what am I thinking? The reason why this happens is because we tend to want to address offenses. And when offenses come up, we tend to want to be the one that's in the right. We don't want to talk about when we offend people. We want to talk about when we are offended so that we can show everyone that we were right. It's not good. It's not healthy. And I'm just going to be honest. It's not mature. It's not mature for me. It's not mature for anyone. It says in James chapter 1, verses 19 through 20. It says, "Now know this, my beloved brothers, let every person be quick to hear, slow to speak, slow to anger. For the anger of man does not produce the righteousness of God." Like, we ought to look at the fact that Jesus put us on this earth to be a beacon, and this sounds really, really like silly, and it sounds like kind of like kumbaya, but we're supposed to be a beacon of the love of God. We're supposed to show people how much Jesus loved us by loving each other. So when we think of that, the calling actually to overlook an offense is a deep spiritual maturity. So I want you to really think about ways right now that you can overlook offenses around you. Try it once a day. John Acuff on his podcast said a good thing to try a day is to overlook one offense every day. Something that happens to you, just let it go and consciously let it go. I'm letting that go. I'm going to forgive that. I'm going to let it go. I'm going to get past it. It's a great spiritual tool. And oh, by the way, fun fact, last thing I want to close on with this is when we were waiting in line at Starbucks, I ordered a couple drinks because I ordered something for Jamie and something for the kids. And I got my drinks before that lady did. I just think that's funny. It doesn't mean that if you overlook an offense, you're going to come on top. But what I'm saying is I thought it was kind of ironic considering, she was in a hurry. So long story short, overlook offenses. Think about ways that you are growing and focus on just today practicing letting something go.